Okay. Order, senators. Order, Senator Mohamud. Order, Senator Mohamud. Senator Mohamud, order. These are the results of the vote. Abstention 0, the nays 0, ayes 28, the ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the development, regulation, and promotion of the mung beans sector and for connected purposes.
We now go back to order number. What's your point of order, Senator Shionga?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise on point of order to withdraw the statement I said early in regards to my delegation and voting.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, we go to order number 9.
Order number 9, motion of condolence. The late Senator Mohammed Yusuf Haji, EGH MP.
Leader of minority.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the following motion, that the Senate expresses its deep sadness at the death on the 15th of February 2021 of Honorable Mohammed Yusuf Haji, the Senator for Garissa County and Chairperson of the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations, records its appreciation for his contribution to public service spanning over 6 decades, recognizes the high esteem in which he was held by colleagues from all the parties, and the principled, dedicated, and considered manner he undertook his duties, and offers its profound sympathy and condolences to his family, friends, and the nation. Now, Mr. Speaker, before I go to the content of my speech, really, in regard to our dear distinguished Senator for Garissa, Senator Mohammed Yusuf Haji, Mr. Speaker, I thought very deeply about this matter, because never in the history of Parliament since independence, even the old Legislative Council, has there been a motion of condolence moved either in the previous Senate, the current Senate, or in the life of the National Assembly. But, Mr. Speaker, having checked the practice in other jurisdictions, particularly in the Commonwealth, I found that in Australia, whenever there is the death of the Governor General, who is the representative of the Queen in Australia, or the Prime Minister, or a senator, or a member of the National Assembly, or any distinguished person, then the National Assembly or the Senate would record its appreciation in a formal motion, as opposed to the matter being a reaction or a debate after the Speaker has announced the death of a particular member or a particular person, which has been the practice here. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, we have done it now in this Senate for 2 occasions. I also found that in the House of Commons and in the UK Parliament, there are instances when there's been a death of a member of the royal household, which means the Queen's family or the royalty, or other distinguished members of the of both houses, that there have been practices in the past where indeed a motion has been moved. And actually a resolution, because this is a motion, there's a resolution that is made at the end. So I thought that in regard to Senator Haji, instead of just a general debate, there should be an expression on which the question is put to the Senate that indeed we have resolved and is recorded as a resolution of the House that we appreciate the life and service of our dear senator, and those thanks and sympathies be submitted to the family as a Hansard, as a record of the Hansard, and probably with a note from the Speaker. Now, the question may be asked, why Senator Haji? And I want to be very open about this. And if you look at the papers today, there are a lot of things which have been said about Senator Haji. But I want to make a personal testimony of somebody I've known for a very long time, and probably unknown to many members in this House. If ever there was somebody who was concerned about the business in the House being transacted in an open manner without restriction, and to have debate without any fear, because sometimes when you debate, it looks like somebody is holding a hammer on you. If there's anybody who enjoyed an open debate, it was Senator Haji. And many times when he had said something that he didn't like, he would take it in good spirit, cross the floor, and tell me as much. But he would not fail to appreciate my right to say what he's saying. And there are times when Senator Haji probably would say something about me that he thought, he had second thoughts about it. He would come back and tell me about it, that, you know, this is not right, and I didn't mean to say so. So the openness of Senator Haji, the truthfulness of Senator Haji, and the dedication to serve this country, for me, is without example. And I'm saying without example because if you look at the instances where people have probably raised questions about the conduct of Senator Haji, you would find he was given the most difficult responsibilities. When he came to Nyanza as a provincial commissioner, as a DC in Kisumu or Siaya, it is because something was going in that area that other public officials would find it very difficult to deal with. And for the purposes of my senator, distinguished senator from Kericho, I know at one time when there was a lot of border clashes, and of course Senator Ota is here, between Nyakach and Belgut. And it went on for quite a long time. And it was eventually decided that Senator Haji would be the right person to take and be a peacemaker when there were those conflicts going on between those two provinces and two districts. And in Rift Valley, I think he was placed there by the late president, but because of that reason, because he was a peacemaker. And the expanse of that province from Ethiopia, Sudan, going to Tanzania, it was not an easy place in which to administer justice and be the chief representative of central government in that area. And we know what Senator Haji did, and I think the leader of majority was telling me of an instance concerning him as a person in respect of elections where he was being rigged out, and Senator Haji stood out for him before the late President Moi. And of course, Mr. Speaker, you gave us another example in Kilgoris, and Trans Nzoia. And come the fight towards multipartyism in northern Kenya and Marsabit, again, when there were clashes there, President Kibaki chose him and Speaker Kaparo to go and try and resolve the issues that were going on in Marsabit and other parts of the northern part of Eastern Province. And in the region, in the relations that we have not quite achieved peace as yet, but in the region between Kenya and Somalia, our operations in in Somalia, which is in the context of peacemaking, he played a very big role. And I want to say when Senator Haji, I think he's the only person who has been an acting minister for defense, no, a minister for defense, an acting minister for the interior, and an acting minister for foreign affairs. And in that responsibility, I accompanied him to Ethiopia when we had to, at that time he was just acting minister for defense and foreign affairs. And we were there with the late late vice president and minister there, later on Saitoti. And his presentation, I mean, when we were meeting our counterparts in Ethiopia, he occupied the whole room. We could feel him in the whole room. And the legalism that some of us try to bring, he put it in direct, words, that it is either peace or no peace, but peace requires peacemakers, and both governments must be dedicated towards creating peace between Ethiopia and Kenya. At that time, there was a little problem between Kenya and Ethiopia at Moyale and so on. So he has been felt everywhere in this republic. And of course, as chairman of national security, defense, and foreign relations, his job speaks for itself. I need not say anything more because he was a chair of that committee for these 2 terms of, the previous Senate and the current Senate. And I remember when I was a member at the first inauguration of that Senate, when we went for the elections, and I think the majority, deputy majority leader was there. It was a time when contestation was at its highest. We were fighting in elections of committees. And in all the committees, people were fighting for these positions. But when it came to this very critical committee, and Senator Wetangula was in that committee, Senator Fatuma Dulo and myself, Senator Ongoro, we decided that, nobody should put his name against Senator Haji. And that committee operated in a very bipartisan manner. And I cannot forget when we went as a delegation to Philippines, in Manila. Senator Haji wanted us to share a meal at the end of every day at his expense. We tried, and he would insist, he would insist that although there was other people in the delegation and the parliament had provided for everything, he would insist that he would go to a restaurant of his choice, and of course that would not be quite an ordinary restaurant. And I was wondering, this Senator Haji, who in his bearing, he lives in a very simple way, He has no complications, even his abode when out there, in very simple circumstances, that we insist that we go to the most expensive restaurant. I think Senator Fatuma Dulo, you remember that. And not once, twice. And enjoy not only the discussions we're having with our counterparts in the Philippines, but also seeing that country for what it is and make comparisons. Now, Mr. Speaker, he was therefore a great peacemaker, contrary to a lot of people who may want to argue otherwise. Whenever you have occupied that position of Minister for Interior and some of the responsibilities you were given, it is very difficult to come out without criticism. And I can urge you, look at the people who have been ministers for Interior. Most of them, we have had problems with them. Each one of them, we have had problems. But the short period when he was Minister for Interior and when he was an assistant minister in that department, after the elections in 1997, when he was nominated to the National Assembly, he served with decorum, he served with humility, and he served knowing that Kenya, as many people have said before, that Kenya is bigger than any one of us, is greater than any one of us. So we mourn a great Kenyan and a great human being. And somebody who loved the truth. You know, Senator Haji really loved the truth to his bone and soul. And if you have any doubts about that, when you are debating the formula, to the end, he stuck to where he was. And he will tell you in the face that in this one, hata kama ni nani, ninakufa na watu wangu, and this is something good for Kenya. We tried to have meetings with him, and he told me the only solution, and I think the leader of majority is my witness, that the solution lies with the executive. But if this is the money they are bringing before the Senate for purposes of sending it to the counties, then the solution, we should not waste our time, talking to him because he would not change. And those days, whenever I saw Senator Haji missing in the House and we were about to vote, and I saw Falhada around, Senator Falhada, I knew what the vote was going to be. Yeah, it was going to be. And I think during that debate of the formula, I loved it. I mean, I may have taken a contrary position, but I think that is the time when I really felt we were in a house in which reason and debate would prevail. And if there was any other thing, on the sidelines, the core of the issue that was before us, to the extent that we were divided on matters of principle, I really admired it. And that Senator Haji would stand firm to the position that he had taken. I think that was a beautiful thing for me, and I'll remember him for that. And eventually, he then had this great responsibility about the Building Bridges initiative. I think he is not here to speak for himself now, but as co-chair, I think there are challenges and things that we needed to know from him. Because knowing those things, the country will be better informed. This debate and what is happening in the county assemblies probably is happening without his contribution. But I know, as a matter of fact, and this I'm saying for the country to hear, that if there was anything in that document that Senator Haji did not agree to, then we are cast. Because he did not want things that were done differently. But he's not there to speak to us about it. And probably, now this is just my wishful thinking, if there was any other way of Ijara getting a constituency, I would try to find a way. I would try to find a way. Yeah, because he really fought hard, selflessly. And I think, in fact, Ijara deserved to get that constituency. He was not just asking for it because of love of community, but I think he deserved it. Now, finally, Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to say something in the spirit of Senator Haji. And it's about something that I'm beginning to see in this country that we must be very careful about. In the Constitution, there is protected speech, which has got certain limitations. And those limitations I'm quite happy about, that those limitations should continue to be there. But the moment we begin to restrict speech or begin to criminalize speech, then we are talking about another country. And I want to say that from the bottom of my heart. I want this country to remember that in the laws of Kenya, there was a law of sedition. Law of sedition. You say anything, you are taken to court, you are not given bail because the minimum sentence was 10 years, and until your case is resolved, you remain in detention. And I'm saying I was a victim. One time I was arrested and taken to Kisii on a charge of sedition, and then taken to Orengo, because you can see there was so much noise. And then from Orengo, I was taken to Kilgoris, and Senior Counsel Mwite would come there to Kilgoris to come and represent me. So, in as much as we don't like what people are saying, and you don't have to like what I'm saying. You don't have to like it. And you'll be a fool to like what I say all the time. It means your mind is not working. But to criminalize what somebody is saying, I think that would be a great betrayal to the people of Kenya who fought so hard. First of all, to get rid of those laws like sedition. Even regard to the law regarding incitement, its constitutionality has been challenged. So I would want, in the spirit of Senator Haji, because he was a Democrat, he was open to plead to this country that we need a degree of tolerance to drive us forward. There was a great American judge who said the remedy to be applied in circumstances where you may not like what somebody is saying is more speech, not enforced silence. And then he further said the remedy for speech that is false is speech that is true. So whenever somebody says anything you don't like or you think is false, the remedy is not to be oppressive or overbearing, but speak the truth. And then you'll have gotten rid of the whole idea. So in a nutshell, what I'm not trying to say, I'm trying to say that the spirit of this great man, who was a peacemaker, in fact, when he was making peace, he had to hear people saying things from both sides. And I know my Senator Fatuma Dula has been a peacemaker in another capacity. And of course, that's a name that she's given when she's out there, not when we're before the floor of the House. But I hope, in all honesty, that we build this country to be a democratic and open society. As a bottom line, open, democratic society. And I think that is what, from what I can gather in my association and relationship with Senator Haji, the man loved the truth. Loved the truth. Why do people in this country fear the truth so much? So much that something little is said and the whole place is burning. Yeah? If you find it, then we should not even be in the business of politics. I have heard this president who has gone in the United States of America, Trump, used to call people all sorts of names. But you counter it with what you think is right. So whereas I don't agree with a lot of people on the side opposite, but when they make a point, I want to appreciate. And when they don't make it, then I make a contrary point. Well, that is called the doctrine of counter speech. It's a great legal doctrine that if you live in a society where people are inert, like one time, the famous member of parliament nominated from Nakuru, Chotara, Honorable Chotara, he had two propositions that why do we have elections since President Moi is the one who knows a bad man and a good man. He should wake up in the morning and say, Murkomen, you're a senator for Mombasa. Fatuma Dulo, you're a senator for Siaya. Why do we waste time? And then he said that, this business of coming to Parliament and talking the whole day, and even some people who cannot even make a razor blade or a pin. And we have a garage where we can repair vehicles. He was saying this because, you know, there were some people in Parliament known as the seven-bearded sisters who most of the time had nothing that you could show materially. Yeah. So I may have nothing, but my mind may be a bank of information that you should not allow me to take that bank to the grave. Yeah, you better listen to it. So, Mr. Speaker, without taking a lot of time, I wish and I hope that this House can join me in paying tribute to this great Kenyan, and at the end that we send these profound sympathies and condolences to the family of Senator Mohammed Yusuf Haji. What a man. And I hope from that stock, where he came from, that greater people will come to help this nation become a greater nation. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I move. I ask the Majority Leader to second.